Books on Books on the Brain.
Welcome back to Books on the Brain, a podcast of books and nonsense. I am Deirdre.
I'm Danielle.
I just realized that our intro does not facilitate itself to it. So never mind. Let's not do it.
Okay. Deirdre was trying to pitch us to put our handles in the intro, which is fine. If you want to follow Deirdre, she has an Instagram and TikTok at Deirdre Rose Morgan, and I am at DJ Books on TikTok and in Instagram. Follow us there if you're so interested. That's what we were trying to facilitate, and it didn't work. So
It did not work.
And that's okay.
Check back next time.
Yeah, we'll try again next time. Good effort. Good effort.
Good effort.
How the heck are you?
I am so good. I'm so excited to be back recording with you. I know we took a lot of breaks last year unintentionally, but also I think very much needed for both of us. And I think season 4 is gonna be fun. I'm excited.
She's a good one. I feel like last year was such a culminating year for us both, like personally and academically, that I'm excited for 2024. Clean slate. Getting stuff done. I'm excited.
2024 feels like the year of reaping the benefits of the hard work.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying this whole time.
We have both been putting in the work, and I think 2024 is going to be the year where we see it coming to fruition in multiple ways.
I hope so.
We have a very exciting announcement, and that is that in 2023 both Danielle and I graduated from our degree programs. You are looking at 2 girls with 1 more degree than they started 2023 with.
2.
Me. 2.
I have 2 bachelors.
Oh, you got 2? Oh.
But I didn't have a bachelor's to start.
But you got 1 degree, or did you did you not have 2 bachelors?
I had.
Oh, you got 2.
Had it. Yeah, so I did a combined degree, so I got 2 bachelors, which is crazy. 2 bachelors in 5 years.
So we have 3 degrees between us.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, you have your master's. That's 4 between us.
My master's was 1 degree. Well, we have 4 in total because I have my undergrad and my master's, but never mind.
And we both graduated high school, and we both have participation trophies from our middle school soccer teams. Yes. I convocate in the spring, but I did technically graduate December 22nd, so
exciting.
I'm very excited. Very excited. It feels crazy to be done something that you spent so much of your life doing.
Right?
It does. It feels it also, like, the way that I graduated didn't have a lot of pomp and circumstance. Like, I feel like it's kind of been a trend as of late where, like, your last day of school is you by yourself doing, like, it's not like you're in a classroom and you can, like, celebrate with people. It's like kind of isolated.
Yes, I had the same experience, it was very bizarre because I technically finished my thesis and was like wrapped, done, dusted 2 months before graduation. So it was a very weird feeling of being like, I'm done, but not really feeling done until the ceremony was over.
Very much that. I'm like, I know technically I have these degrees and I'm just waiting for the department to tell the government that I passed, but I'm like,
right,
it's just weird. It's crazy. Weird.
Crazy. We were just talking about music before we started recording, and I was like, we have to continue this conversation actually on air because I feel like we always do that. We have these conversations that lend to giving more information about our personalities and us in our personal lives. And
just between the two of us.
And we feel like we should let you guys be privy to those conversations.
Yes.
Because I was saying I got an MRI last year, and I don't share a whole lot about my health online, but I do feel like I can share this. I'm fine. It was just a routine situation. And when I was in the capsule, they were like, what would you like us to play? Like, do you want some music? And I was like, yes, please play me Harry Styles. But then I realized that was a mistake, because all I wanted to do was bop around, and I had to keep myself, you have to be so still. So I know I have one coming up this year, and I was saying, like, what should I, or what have I been listening to and want to play? And I was like, oh, I think Hozier might be the winner. And then we started talking about Hozier's new album.
We were. And I was saying jokingly, like, if I was in Deirdre's situation, I would probably ask them to play, like, you know, those like live YouTube channels that just play like hours straight of lo-fi hip hop. But I found one that
I've been listening to? I put on like cozy ambiance. I find like the strangest AI generated cabins
artwork
with an outlook on a snowy mountain, and it has like lo-fi jazz playing.
Literally, yes. I play that all the time, but there's one that does piano covers of Studio Ghibli music, and it's all to like these scenic Studio Ghibli like screenshot. I just love it. I'm like, I'll sit and stare at it, and I'm like, oh, I have to be working.
Yeah. I back in, it was beginning of December, stuff was happening with Lo-Fi Girl and Lo-Fi Boy. Do you know what I'm talking about? They like got taken out of their homes, and then a little short was released of them out in the world. And I haven't followed up and seen what's going on over there. I don't know if you are.
I have a controversial opinion. I don't think everything needs to have lore, you know? Sometimes we could just have Lo-Fi Girl. She could just be working on something. We don't need to have a backstory. I'm happy for her. Girl, get what you need to get. But I feel obligated to know the lore. And I just don't have. I don't know. How do I Google that?
Fair enough.
Lo-Fi Girl. What?
Lo-Fi Girl lore.
Disappeared. Gone? Forever? Question mark? Oh man. Okay, today's episode. I'm excited. We're doing our version of the 2023
Book Awards.
I don't know. We have like a funny name for
books. We did come up with a funny name for it, and I wish I wrote it down. Books on the Brain Awards. That's what I wrote here. But that BOTB Awards. And the thing that sets us apart from the Goodreads Awards is that we do not exclusively read debuts in a year. So this is everything we read, and it could be from any period in time.
And some of us didn't even read a debut this year.
Oh, I'm surprised.
I'm not.
I was surprised by how many debuts I actually read.
I looked at your list. I was like, oh, every book I'm in. Is this a debut? I'm like, oh my god. No.
I did read a lot from 2022 though. It was actually, I was happy that I read a couple from 2023, but I feel like the majority of the books I read were from 2022.
Okay. You know what? I think I did. I shouldn't say that because I don't know. Honestly, knowing me, I probably didn't read a lot of debuts. And that's just me. But we broke down some categories. We have some nominees, and then we'll reveal our winners.
Yes.
And yeah, it'll just be a kind of fun little time. This is like a great opportunity to get some recommendations in and to just review and think about all the wonderful things we read last year.
Yeah. Do you know how many books you read last year?
Oh, I do know. Do you know how would you? I have to look it up.
Roughly.
Okay, how much did you
Because I didn't actually write down all the books I read, and I didn't realize that until I was doing all my wrap-ups. So I read somewhere around 116 and 117 books.
Heck yes, we were very close. I read 123.
Nice.
Which did not beat my reading goal, which was fine.
What was your reading goal? 150?
200.
Oh.
Because the year before I read 200, and I was like, I could do that again. I don't think I was well. I don't think I could do that again. What is my reading goal for this year? You'll have to find out.
Yeah, stay
tuned.
Am I well?
No. but I had 2 reading goals. Are we talking about our reading goals, or is that next episode?
No, that's next episode.
Okay, shut up.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
No, stop me there.
I just wanted to know how many books you read.
I read 123. And you also wanted to know standout genre.
Did I?
That's something on the Trello card.
Oh.
You said share bookish stats. I think
nice.
I think my standout genre, I read a lot of Why Choose romance novels last year.
Nice.
Yeah, in a lot of different categories of romance they appeared. But I think that was that, or like nonfiction audiobooks. Those were my 2.
Oh,
I read a lot of nonfiction audiobooks, but that was when I was like doing my job where I was up every morning and like walking, so I was just listening to that instead of podcasts. So those are my 2 standout, 2 very different standout. What about you? Standout genre.
Standout genres. I read the most in fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't actually know which subgenre I read the most. I think it's a battle between cozy and high fantasy.
Okay. Fair.
And then the other like side standout, which doesn't have anything to do with numbers, I was just really impressed by how much of it I read, was historical romance.
Oh, okay.
I like very consistently all year was reading historical romance, which I almost never do. And now I think I'm dedicated this year to reading almost exclusively historical romance.
Fun.
And romance and fantasy books, obviously.
Well, yeah. But sometimes you just gotta have the olden fan loving Bridgerton stuff, you know? I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
And
You
that's
said
what
it
I've been saying.
perfectly. You said it perfectly.
I
forgot that I gave us little prompts.
That's okay. I'm like a lifeline. I'm like, what are we talking about? I'm ready, prepared.
I think we're ready to get into the awards.
Okay, I'm just having like a moment of
panic.
Oh, no. I'm having a moment of panic because I was like, I wrote a book down for a lot. Oh no, okay, good. Okay, no, we can keep going. I kept writing down a book for a whole bunch of my entries, and I was like, did I actually read? Because you were like, oh, maybe in 2022, and I was like, oh my god, did I read this book in 2022? But no, I read it in 2023. I just had to check.
Nice. Losing my train of thought. What do they win? Recognition from us, which honestly is the highest honor ever. It's clout. It's more prestigious than the Goodreads Awards, in my opinion.
From 2 haters like us. Crazy. Okay, I'm so excited.
Me too. Okay, so starting off with the genre that both of us read a lot of, we have what was the best romance book that you read?
Yeah. This is controversial already.
Oh.
So I messaged Deirdre, I don't know, a week ago. I don't even know if that's true. And I was like, I'm back on my Ali Hazelwood BS, which is controversial because I said I would never read Book of Rose again because I didn't get the arc for Love on the Brain, and it literally crushed me. Like, I have never in my life stuck my butt out for an arc more. I'm cold emailing people. I'm like, hey, like, just embarrassing. And they're like, absolutely not. Or worse, didn't even respond to me. And I was like, so then I was like, I hate this feeling. So then I didn't read Ali Hazelwood for what, 2 years?
Something
a year
like
and a
that.
bit. But then I was at the store and I saw her YA debut and I was like, looks like Queen's Gambit. I'm interested. So then I got back on my Ali Hazelwood BS. Allywood. That is her name to me. And her newest book, Love Theoretically, was really good. It was, I think, her strongest book so far. And I know that's probably not saying a lot to a lot of people because I know people don't like her writing, but it was the most complex and different from all her other books, which I appreciate.
Okay.
And then the other 2 nominees and then the winner are actually the same author. And let me tell you what, Devney Perry could get some. I love Debbie Perry. She is just really good at what she does. Like, I will read so many concurrent of her series and just love every single one of them. And I feel like she does not get the balloons and the flowers she deserves. Her Eden's Family series that I've been reading, I don't know, for like a year.
Yeah.
And then she has like a sports romance one, single dad one that I read that I really liked, that called Coach. But I think the best romance so far of the year was Sable Peak, which is the newest book that came out in the Eden's Family trilogy, which is it's crazy, right? So we left this family off where in one of the novels the main male love interest is a cop, which I have mixed feelings about, but whatever. He's a cop. And he used to be partnered with this man who allegedly murdered his 3 children and wife and then went on the run. And they were like, what? And then at the beginning of the second last book in the series that I read, this girl, like the cop's female love interest, is hiking in the wilderness. And she comes across this mountain man who like strangles her, which is the cop guy, not the no love interest, the dad. And then later on in the book, this is spoiler, so I'm so sorry. I think you'll forget it by the time you get to it. But eventually we figure out that it's all a lie. The mom actually killed the kids, but didn't kill the oldest daughter. So the dad took the oldest daughter, and they have been on the run for the past 4 years, living in the wilderness. And so Sable Peak is the romance between this girl who's been living in the wilderness for 4 years and the youngest Eden brother.
Okay.
It is
got it.
crazy. It is like not so but it was like so fun. Her books are like little soap operas. I think they're so fun. I think they're just so fun. So
I can't tell if that's the girl cat or the boy cat, but whoever they are, he's picking out his best romance.
No, it's because the cat treats are right there.
Oh, well.
Oh man, what are you doing? Yes, so best romance in my opinion, Sable Peak by Daphne Perry. Thank you.
Okay. Very nice. I have 3 very different books for this category. So I have Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher, which is a fantasy romance. The Secret Service of Tea and Treason by India Holton, which is also a fantasy romance, but it's historical. And then The Duchess Deal by Dessa. Oh my god. I keep flipping the like letters in words.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare. And they were all so great, but I think I'm gonna have to give the winner to The Secret Service of Tea and Treason.
Okay, yes.
And you're gonna see this book get a lot of awards from me today because it was one of my favorite reads of the year.
Award winning.
So I'll tell you what it's about now, and then I don't have to repeat it a million times. So this is the 3rd book in a series where in this world, pirates and witches in Victorian England are like out and about in society, but they notoriously hate each other because the pirates got hold of a witch's spell a really long time ago and their houses can fly, but the witches perceive pirates to be like very scandalous, and the pirates are like, these witches don't know what they're doing, and there's a feud. So the 3rd book is when we meet this Secret Service that keeps tabs on the pirates and the witches. So it's like CIA meets MI6 meets underground Secret Service. And there has been a plot like to kill Queen Victoria put out by one of the pirates. And so the Secret Service is like, we got to send our 2 best agents to shut this down. So their code names are I think it's Agent A and Agent B, I'm pretty sure. And the two of them have kind of been like battling it out for like best agent in the service. And when they get paired together, they're like, I don't know about this. But then they get there and they're like, these pirates are so weird. And then the pirates are like, these people are so weird. And I think they're both coded for autism.
Gotcha.
I'm the girl for sure, but I'm pretty sure both of them are. And it's very funny I think I talked about this on the podcast, the way that they view logic, right? Because that's a really big part of
Their
autism.
job.
They're like, these pirates make no sense, but the pirates are already crazy illogical people, so they're like, nothing makes sense. And
No.
it just leads to it being even more whimsical and witty, and their romance is so cute. And you obviously get to meet the other two couples in this book, but I didn't feel spoiled by that because they're in so intermittently. That she does this really great job, which I like in a lot of these like multi-couple series where it's really about them. And it's one of the ones where these other couples that got together in previous books are in it so fleetingly that when you go back to read those books, because I read it out of order, I wasn't like, oh man, I really wish I read it in order. So it was fantastic.
Okay, fun.
Up next, we have Best Fantasy.
Dun dun dun. I just have one. Well, I have two books, but they're from the same series.
Oh.
Because lo and behold, did not read a lot of fantasy books last year. I read a lot of sci-fi.
Oh, okay.
Like sci-fi romance.
Nice.
But fantasy, okay, so I haven't talked about this series at all, and I think it's honestly really fun. So, it's the Beast of the Briar series, and it's kind of like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but also kind of it gives off like some ACOTAR vibes because it's about like seasonal courts. But there's only 4 of them. But anyway, there's this human, or is she human? But she basically gets brought into this world with these fae people, and there's this communal place where all 4 of the like princes of each realm come to live to keep the magic of the place alive. So they have to keep this house upheld, whatever. And there's a evil guy from the down below place, which I don't know what they call in this world, but basically it's like a wide shoes romance with this girl. There are all these magical fays. There's a lot of fighting in it, which I thought was fun, especially for a fantasy romance. It has a lot of combat, which I thought was really fun, and also like some pretty complex like political intrigue to it too, especially for it being like a little fantasy romance guy. But I thought it was really fun. So the first book is Bonded by Thorns. The second one is Woven by Gold. The third book, I think just came out, like just came out in the series. And yeah, they're like chunky books too. Like they're quite long. But they're like easy in the way that I would say like it does give like very strong Sarah J. Maas vibes, but I think if it was written better. So I'm like, they're fun and easy to read. And they're also on Kindle Unlimited, so day free for those of you who have subscriptions. But anyway, that's my best fantasy.
Okay. I have 3 nominations. The first is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon.
Shocking.
Darkwater Daughter, I know, by H.M. Long. And The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. And I think I'm gonna have to give this one to A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. It was just so like a feat of fantasy telling and fantasy storytelling.
It's okay.
And I think the most impressive part for me was seeing Shannon's craft move forward from Priory.
Yeah.
And it just felt even, it was already elevated in Priory, and it just felt even more elevated. Which only makes me more excited to read books as she publishes them.
Yes.
So very brief, A Day of Fallen Night is the prequel to Priory of the Orange Tree. It takes place 500 years in the past and tells the story of events that happened which directly impact the events that happen in Priory. So very fun. Okay, now we have best YA. It felt right to give this its own category.
Agreed. I just have one nominee, one winner. And it is, and I don't want anyone getting any ideas that I am a fan of Ali Hazelwood. It just so happens that I really did like her YA debut. That was a debut. Oh my gosh. Hey, wait a minute. Well, copy paste, put that later too. Great. But Check and Mate is really fun. It quite literally is like beat for beat The Queen's Gambit. I don't know if that makes it a good book, but it did make it enjoyable because I love The Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, me too.
But it's basically the story of this 18-year-old girl who forgoes going to college, and she works in a car garage. And she used to play chess, and she kind of stopped after a family tragedy had happened. And she gets tricked into playing this charity event with her friend who's going off to college as like I'm leaving, we have to do one more thing together before we forget about each other. I don't know what people do before they leave for college. And she goes and plays in this tournament, and she ends up playing against the highest ranked chess player in the world and beats him. And he then becomes like obsessed with playing her again. And like, yeah, it just like shakes up his world. Like not in like a weird, like, I gotta beat you, but in like a, you're making chess fun again. There is, because it is YA, there is no explicit things, because even though they are both of age, so don't look for that in this. But what I did find was it was a very sweet story, and I think it was a lot of good character building, which I sometimes do not see in Ali Hazelwood books. So I felt like the characters had a lot of depth, specifically the main character. I was like, oh man, she actually seems way more fleshed out than like the Ray stand-in whatever Raylo fanfic. Yeah. So I actually did really enjoy it. If you're looking for a quick read, that is The Queen's Gambit. Check out Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood.
Great. I do think I'm gonna read some Ali Hazelwood this year.
Don't read Love
we've had two very different Ali Hazelwood journeys, but recently I was talking to someone and they were like, she only gets better. And I'm quite interested in her book coming out this year, Bride. So
I'm also very interested in this, but I can't get my hopes up.
Yeah, me neither. Okay,
what do you have?
My picks are Painted Devils by Margaret Owen, which was the sequel to Little Thieves.
Yes.
Bedazzled by Ryan LaSala, and A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. And I think this one is going to have to go to A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. It was so freaking good. It was full of action and angst and drama and dark academia vibes. And it just, I could not put it down at all. So this story is about a girl named Effie, and she is in the architecture college at a university.
Okay.
And she really wants to be in the literature college, but the literature college does not let in women. And she has this particular author that she loves a lot.
Yeah.
And she's trying to get a hold of some of his stuff from the library, but this person has checked out everything by this author. It is out of the library. And she's like, what the hell is going on? Then as things start to unfold, she ends up being invited to this author's house. He has passed away. And so she's invited by a relative because they're trying to do some architectural changes to the house. And so she applies and is the one called down to start making blueprints and plans for this house.
Yeah.
She wants to leave the university behind. Some things have happened that she wants to get away from, and she just needs a change of scenery. And as she gets down there, it's in this part of the country where they experience this thing called a drowning, and it's just a lot of water everywhere. And there's all these people that are like, why do you stay if you know that you're going to have to go through drownings every however many years? And they're like, well, why would we leave our home? You know, we're going to figure out how to weather these storms.
Yeah.
And then she gets to the house, and maybe everything isn't quite as it seems. And there's another student at the house from the literature college who is working on his thesis, and the two of them kind of butt heads a little bit, but sort of have to figure out how to coexist in this space, especially when it seems like there are forces trying to get in their way.
Ooh.
So it's very fun. There's a little romance in it, and I really love it. It was a 5-star read for me.
Okay, amazing.
Now we have best 2023 release.
You don't want to talk about best horror?
I think I just put that on there because I knew I read some horror last year. But then last time when I was filling it in, I was like, oh, I don't know if Danielle read any horror.
I didn't. Nope.
Okay, so skip.
I laughed so hard. I was like, in what world did I read horror? I was like, when did I
don't
read that
know.
Ava Reed book? And then I was like, that was not 2023. That's the closest I get to horror. Yes, best 2023 release. Oh yeah, I go first. Okay, how fun. So I kind of whittled myself down because I felt like I wanted to give some like spotlights to things that I don't talk a lot about online. And so there's this series called the Arrow Heart Academy series, and the second book literally just came out on like a couple days ago, and I just finished it, and it's so good. By Hannah Hayes. It's a Kindle Unlimited series. But it tells the story of this young girl who, well, she's like 20, I think. She's not that young. But she
I don't know,
has
my
been
sister's about to be 20 and I'm like, young girl.
You say young girl. Da, 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 da. But she's been raised her entire life in like this abandoned wasteland kind of place outside of society by her aunt, who has basically kept her hidden. There's a convention in this universe that once you are like a magic user, you come into your magic, you have to become registered, and then they take you and they put you into schools, whatever. So her aunt kept her out of them, and then her aunt passes away, so she's by herself. And one day she is found by these two men. One is the enforcer and one is a professor at the academy, and they basically bring her back into society, and they're like, it's illegal, you gotta enlist or whatever the heck. So she starts the process of learning how to use her magic because she is a magic user. It's very like Chosen One vibes, which I think is kind of fun. But then it becomes very clear very quickly that, again, this was the year of the white shoes. She is like, she's got all these men who are like, oh, I think you're my fated mate. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is she gonna do? Which is so silly and fun. But it is like a really good new adult, I would say, novel, like a new adult fantasy romance. There's magic. A lot of stuff just got uncovered in the second book that I'm like still processing. They're good pace. There's some like romance in it. And there's some good twists and turns. So I really enjoyed it. I think if you're looking for, again, something that's like pretty like you can zip through it pretty quick. Fractured Fates is the first book in the series, and I think it's really good.
Nice. I have two books that I already nominated for something: Darkwater Daughter by H.M. Long and A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. And then the last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. And I am going to make The Last Tale of the Flower Bride the winner of this because it really came out of nowhere and stole my heart. It was so good. It was a little bit horror, a little bit like maybe fantasy. Is it fantasy? Is it fake? Is it in their minds?
Yeah.
And it's about this man and woman who meet right at the beginning of the book through sort of like an art deal that's kind of happening. And then they begin a relationship that is conventional but not conventional. Like they like to play games with each other and kind of like set rules both in the bedroom and outside the bedroom. And so one of the rules that the wife has set is that he is really not allowed to ask her about her life prior to the meeting or look into any of her secrets. And then they are invited back to her family home because her grandmother is dying. And she's like, I'm bringing you, obviously, but I really need you to just not
say anything.
Like, you have to follow our rules.
Yeah.
And they get to the house and things start coming to light. It's told through two perspectives. So the first is through the guy's perspective in the present day, and then her past is told through the perspective of her best friend.
Ooh.
And yeah. And so we never actually get her perspective.
That's interesting.
And it's the thing that I really liked about it was there are so many moments where it's leaning towards like, oh, okay, this is a fantasy, but then it like pulls back for a second and is like, is it? Or is it in their mind? Like, is their imagination so wild that things are just sort of like fabricated around them, and that's how they perceive the world? It was very cool. And I really, really enjoyed it.
That sounds very fun. You've talked about this one before, but I'm like, it does sound very, very, very fun.
It is fun. I really love when your cats just like poke their heads up and the eyes are so wide and they're like, what
you doing, silly girl? She's watching me crochet.
Oh,
I am
nice.
listening to you, but I am crocheting at the same time.
I love that.
Looks like
it looks so good.
Or like a butthole a little bit, but that's fine. Okay, best backlist book. Okay.
Best backlist book. I actually read a lot of great backlists this year. I don't know about you.
I didn't. I read a lot of newly released books this year, which was, I think, because I usually do read a lot of backlist books. Specifically, I discluded this from my wrap up, but I didn't do any of my rereads. I was like, Danielle, you can't put another Mariana Zapata. It's embarrassing. Stop. So I did not include her on my list, but I narrowed it down to The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang, which I read this year for the first time. I actually read it in one sitting. I was sitting in my university library. It was there. My friends were all doing assignments, and I just sat and I read it. And then after like an hour and a half, I got up and left and was like, all right, see you guys tomorrow.
Nice.
It was just a quick read. So sweet, so fun. We've talked about this book so much, I won't talk about it ad nauseum, but it's a graphic novel. It's queer. It's very, very sweet. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it.
It just like, when I talk about it, it just makes me feel warm inside.
Yeah, it's very cozy.
Such a cute book.
It is.
So my picks for this were A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness.
Was it like Twilight though?
No.
Because that's called Twilight, but for grown-ups.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what it's known for. Yeah.
But
is there anything with vampires?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
But the main character is a witch. So
well, Bella's not really fully human because she has that weird.
her weird
I don't
thing.
know what. I don't know why it's called Twilight for grown-ups, but that's what it is referred to as. So I
Is
was
it just because
curious.
it's about vampires that are
Don't look at
adults?
me. I haven't read it. Above my pay grade.
I would not call it that
Okay.
personally. No.
But now it has you thinking a little bit about
It
it.
just had me thinking a little bit. I'll get back to you after I finish the second book because it just came through on my Libby.
There you go. There you go.
Then we have Radha and Jay's Recipe for Romance by Nisha Sharma and
Yeah.
Paladin's Strength by T. Kingfisher. And
Okay,
I think this
fun.
one is going to go to Paladin's Strength because it was such a good not only sequel, but just a really standout book. I love the Saint of Steel series by T. Kingfisher. It follows these couples. One of the people in the couple is a paladin of a order where they used to serve the Saint of Steel, but one day when they were out fighting a battle, their god died, and they all went a little crazy and killed everybody, and now everyone's a little scared of them, and they're a little scared of each other and themselves. But they got taken in to this temple called the Temple of the Rat, and they have been taking care of each other and making sure that nobody is, falling into deep depressive states, and is trying to be contributive people to society in positive ways. And they all have this shared experience of losing their god, and they all have this sort of feeling within them of like, am I worthy of leading a happy life and being in love because of what is in my past? And so it is at its heart a fantasy romance, because while there's this plot line throughout all of them where they are trying to hunt down this presumable person who is leaving severed heads around.
Okay.
That's like the overarching plot that kind of connects the books. Within each of them, there's also something happening between the two main characters, moving their love story along.
Gotcha.
Yes, it is. It's like it's a step above cozy fantasy for me, which is, I think, my favorite level, if I had to put cozy fantasy into levels, because there's severed heads. Like, they're trying to figure out why severed, that's what they call it in the book. Like, they're just like, these severed heads are showing up, and it's like, oh yeah, like somebody's out there murdering people, but also it has this really fun, whimsical nature to it. The writing is really full of banter, and the characters are so lovable. There's talking animals, and it's just great. It's great.
Fun. Okay, fun.
Okay, next up we have most impactful read. What do you got?
Okay, well, surprisingly or not, I have 3 nonfiction books that I listened to in audiobook form. Not that I'm saying fiction books cannot be impactful. Often I find fiction books incredibly impactful. Just this past year, the nonfiction books that I read were very impactful. The first one is one that you're gonna see a lot. Is The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. I will not shut about this book. It is I literally have given it to like 4 people in my life. I'm like, just, you have to read this. Like,
I love
you
that.
just have to read this. I think that book gave me so much comfort in the unknown of what our modern world is. The book made me think and be curious about things, which I love. It made me laugh, it made me cry. It's just really well done. I really, really like it. The other one was Period, The Real Story of Menstruation by Kate Clancy. That one was really interesting. I will have to say the audiobook's a little slow. But it's just a lot of information heavy. But as someone who menstruates, it's interesting. It's always interesting to me to read about menstruation.
Yeah.
And then the one that wins the category for me is Hood Feminism, Notes from the Woman That a Movement Forgot by Mickey Kendall. This was a backlist read for me. I read the audiobook. It was really good. It was really, really, really good. It was like a thinker. It was one that like I would sit in my car after I was finished driving and just like listen to it for a little bit longer. I didn't want to like get out of my car. There's so many, as someone who considers himself a feminist and I don't consider I am a feminist.
Right.
But to hear that perspective of Black women and how they feel like they've been forgotten from the feminist movement is so, I think it's important for every white woman or female presenting person to kind of listen and hear what's being said and figure out how they contribute to moving things in the right direction. I think it's an incredible book. If you've not read it, I really recommend it. It's pretty fantastic.
Nice. I remember you talking about all three of these, and they've been on my radar for a while, so I think I will be reading them this year, hopefully.
You better read the Anthropocene Review. I mean, you better read all of them, but like the amount that I talk
I know,
about
I really need to read the Anthropocene Reviewed. I know. So I have 3 books in this category. So the first is The Deep by River Solomon,
Yes.
then Minor Detail by Adanya Shibley, and
Yes.
6 Deaths of the Saint by Alexei Harrow. And they're all in here for slightly different reasons, but all of them I have continued to think about after, like, months after finishing them.
Yeah.
So The Deep got me to really think about this idea of collective memory and sharing historical memory in community and what it means to leave that remembrance to one person or a handful of people instead of taking on that burden as a collective.
Okay.
Minor Detail, really, I mean,
it's been everywhere.
It's been everywhere, rightfully. And this story of 2 Palestinian girls who experience the same end in the same way, but the 2 ways that their stories happened and the parallels, but the different, like, that probably is my winner for this category because it just I can't stop thinking about it. Yep. And then Success of the Saint by Alexei Harrow is this phenomenal, it's probably the only book I've read that does like the Groundhog Day effect that I've loved.
Okay, interesting.
It's also less than 80 pages, and this is one of the greatest fantasy books I've ever read.
Whoa, okay.
It's so cool and gut-wrenching and like does so much storytelling in so little time. They're all also novellas. All of them are really short. The Deep, I think, is under 4 hours. Minor Detail was also a very short audiobook. I think it was like a 60-minute audiobook. And then Six Deaths of the Saint was also a very short audiobook. So I think for me the most impactful reads are the ones that can manage to do the most in little to no time.
Oh, okay, very interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard people talking about Success of a Saint. I mean, I think when it first came out, people had gotten arcs, and that's what I saw.
Everybody that I follow on TikTok was talking about it last year because it's part of this Amazon series of short stories that were getting released by different authors.
Oh, cool.
And so many people were talking about specifically Six Deaths of the Saint, which is like the 3rd or 4th book within that series.
Yeah, I maybe if I saw the cover, but because she wrote what other books did she write?
She wrote the Fractured Fable series, 100 Doors of January.
Okay, 10,000 Doors.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Whatever it
is.
Okay,
that's what I'm thinking. Okay, cool.
And she just came out with Starling House, which people have been talking about.
See, we're on very different sides of book time.
Which is funny because we follow a lot of the same people, but it also just goes to show whose content is being showed and whose content isn't.
This is very true. We do follow a lot of the same people, but also I've been watching a lot of cat videos, so my For You page is a little messed up right now.
I'm watching a lot of cooking videos.
Ooh. Yeah. I feel like I'm living my true millennial self, because I'll just watch like compilations of animals and laugh, and I'm like, oh my god, am I
I
100 years
really love
old?
that.
No, it's so embarrassing. I'm like, huh. And then I'm like, should I send this to people? I'm like, no, that's so cringy. Don't send it to people. Jeez. Okay,
Okay.
worst books.
And I was like, how do I get creative? Because now we're kind of we've moved out of the genre category and we're more into like this nebulous space. I wanted to get funny with these category titles, so I called this books a duck couldn't even love.
Which is great. I love.
What's yours?
This was tough. I was going through my reading analytics, and like my overall star rating for the year was, I think, a 3.6, which says a lot about how,
I think if I did that, mine would be the same.
yeah, like I'm like, it's about middle of the road. So I feel like I've read a lot of okay books.
Mm-hmm.
But this was one that I just really had a hard time getting through, and it was actually my first read of 2023, which is funny.
Okay.
But I haven't really talked about it very much at all. But it's called Beard in Mind by Penny Reed. It's part of this like really big romance series.
Mm-hmm.
It's all these different something with beard or beard something something books
All right.
about these brothers, which I'm like, usually that's my gig, you know? I love a small town romance. I love a family falling in love.
You love a
Sign me up.
bearded man.
And that's what I've been saying this whole time. But so I specifically wanted to read this book because A, I had heard a lot about the series in general, and second, because the main character in this book has OCD, and I was like, oh, right, I'll read it. And she has OCD, and how wonderful. Not wonderful. The book should have had way clearer content warnings. I was like just paintballs coming from every which way. Basically, it's a story about this female mechanic who's working at this garage. She just gets hired. And
Mm-hmm.
then the guy who owns the garage, I think, and it's literally been a year since I read this book, so I'm like, is basically trying to get to know her, getting like something, but she is like, her OCD is pretty not managed. So me reading it last year January, I was like, oh no, I don't think I can read this right now. This is a little too close to home. But she has a lot of like, I'll just be flat out, there's a lot of self-harm in that book, and I was like, oh, it was like intrusive thoughts solved through self-harm. It was like, if I hurt myself, then this won't happen. And I was like, I don't know if I could get on board with this. I think I'm just so, and the book itself, like the formatting of the book was real shit bad. It was just bad. Like the actual physical formatting of the ebook was hard to read.
Okay.
Which did not help the fact that I already had no interest in reading it. Yeah, I would say that was, yeah, I don't really get the appeal of, I guess I like consider everybody who told me to read the series, and I'm like, maybe I just picked up because I just randomly did pick up this one. I didn't read them in order. This one I was most interested in reading. Yeah, but it was just not good. I did not like it.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It was quite literally a year ago. I've moved on.
Excuse me.
It's okay.
I listed 2 books. There's definitely one that I have stronger feelings about than the other. So one is a duology, and it's The Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. And the other is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend by Emma Alban. Don't Want You Like a Best Friend is just mid. It was a mid book, and I read I read a lot of very mid books, and like within the mid rating, we've got like just above mid where it's like good, and then we've got mid where it's like I really don't have any feelings about you because you were so just mediocre, and then we've got like the sub mid where I have like issues with it. And I think The Want You Like a Best Friend falls into that middle category where it was just mediocre and it was just fine. And if people get it and love it, I'm so happy for them.
Yeah.
no. It was like one of my least favorite types. It's like it falls into the category of my least favorite type of romance book, in the style that it was told, like the storytelling, and all those kinds of things. I just no. But Serpent in the Wings of Night and The Ashes and Starker's King, I wanted to like the series so bad. And I hate read Ashes and the Starker's King. I
love that for you.
wish I'd put it down. I wish I'd DNF'd it. I'm so mad. I don't even remember Ashes and the Starker's King because it felt like one of those fantasy books where everything was happening and nothing was happening. And you were just like, where am I? What is going on? What are the motivations for these characters? So if I remember correctly, the first book has like a competition aspect to it. And we meet the two main characters, which are the love interests. And then at the end of it, I don't know what happened at the end. And then the second book happened and I blocked it out. I know I read it. I read it at the same time as a friend of mine at work and we were talking about it, but you could not ask me anything about those books at all. I remember they were searching for something and there was a country being run down by a tyrant and they're trying to like get back into the city, but they have to go find this like magical thing. And it was just so bad. It was so bad. It makes me really angry because so many people talk about that duology and they're like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, it's not. And I read her other series, The War of Lost Hearts, which has Daughter of No Worlds in it. And I really liked that series. I enjoyed that trilogy. I have issues with the third book, sure, but mostly it's just too long. I could still probably tell you the general plot from beginning of that series to the end. I couldn't tell you anything about this Serpents in the Wings of Night. Also, I forgot it so bad that when I talked about it in my reading recap on YouTube, I called it The Ashes and the Wings of Night and the Serpent and the Star-Crossed King. I like fully got the names wrong.
Well, as they deserve, I suppose.
Or it was like the Serpent and the Star-Crossed King and the Ashes and the Wings of Night. I don't even know.
That's so funny.
Anyway, it's probably because I feel like in 2022 I read a handful of books that I like vehemently hated and was so like up in arms about. Where this in 2023, I think I managed to DNF a lot of books that I really didn't like. And so I just ended up reading books that I totally forgot about and have no feelings about because I couldn't tell you anything about them.
It was the year of the mid. Like, it very much was the year of the mid. Like, same. I DNF so many books because if it was bad, and that's why that book from January made its way in, because after that I was like, I am DNFing if I do not like this.
Yeah.
But yes, so mid. So mid. Here's hoping that 2024 is less mid.
Please.
Oh boy.
It has to be. So now oh my god, are you excited about this category?
Yeah, I am.
Me too. I read so the category is best sequel or series continuation. And I read a lot of sequels this year.
Me freaking too, brother.
This was actually really hard to narrow down.
It was really hard to narrow down for me too. And I don't really think I did a very good job because I just listed everything anyway. I was like, I'll just everything. But I found this past year, I started a lot of series that were already like what I did was I finished a lot of series that I had already started. So maybe the books had already come out and they were backlisted. Yes. So I feel like I have a lot of series that I'm like, no one's talking about these books because they've been out for years, but I'm like, I'm enjoying them. I'm liking them. Okay, do you want to go first? Because I need to blow my nose.
Sure, I can go first. So I have Painted Devils by Margaret Owen, which is the sequel to Little Thieves. And the third book is coming out this year, so it's not finished yet. Then we have Bloodmarked by Tracy Dion, which is the sequel to Legendborn, which is also an unfinished series. And then I have the one romance, because I was like, you know what? I actually read a lot of really good romance sequels this year. So we
Yes.
have Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade, which is the series called The Gods of the Gates?
I think so. I
I
honestly
think
don't.
I don't know,
But how much
and I
does
couldn't
that
find
book
anything
have?
about it.
How much does Shipwreck have to do with Gods of the Gates?
It's two of the actors.
Oh, okay. Then yes, probably it
Like
is.
the whole thing is like them on set.
Oh,
So it has the most to do with Gods of the Gates of all of them.
okay. Never mind. I'm not ready yet.
It's really good. I have a handful of issues with the amount of content in it, only because it could have been a little shorter, but I think it comes second to spoiler alert for me.
Okay, well, there you go.
/ possibly Trump's spoiler alert. I don't know. I think I'd have to reread spoiler alert to know that.
Fair.
I think I'm going to give this one to Painted Devils by Margaret
Okay.
Owen, because I find that 9 times out of 10, I will love a romance sequel and not have issues with it. I think because it's a completely different story, where
Yes.
I am not always sold by sequels of fantasy books.
This is fair.
And especially if it's more than a duology, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know what secret sauce Margaret is putting into her books. I'm eating them up. They are for me. These books are exactly what I want. And I think the fact that there's 2 YA books in my picks says a lot, because I don't read a lot of YA.
Yeah.
But oh man, so in the first book, we get introduced to, I believe the main character's name is Vanya, and she is the goddaughter of Fate and Death.
Okay, cool.
And she has sort of run away from this life she's been living, and has taken on a life of a little petty crime. And she is kind of a con artist. But she makes the mistake of stealing something, and then a goddess kind of coming after her and being like, you have to pay for the consequences of your actions. And in this, she ends up taking on the persona of a friend of hers, or an ex-friend of hers, and has to reckon with like everything she's done in her past that has led her to this moment. And along the way, she starts falling in love, and then is like, what does this guy see in me? Like, I have to sort my stuff out before we can continue this. And it is a retelling of The Goose Girl, which is a little fairy tale. And so at the second book takes place, I think it's a couple months after the end of the first one. And it's a lot more about her life before she became the goddaughter to these gods, because her mom, like the whole beginning of the story is her lore when her mom like dumped her in the forest and is like, I can't take care of this kid anymore. And so she doesn't know who her family is or where she comes from. And so it's a lot more about her seeking that information out, but then also a lot of like the jinx and hijinks, I should say, of the first book comes into play.
Ooh.
And it was just really lovely. And the thing that I really liked about this book, both of the main characters, I think I'm having the same thing where I'm having trouble remembering if it's both or one, like I did with Tea and Treason, are ace and sort of and demisexual, like on that spectrum. And in this book, there is a significant amount of exploration of these two characters, like talking through that. And I wouldn't call it spicy, but in YA terms, like these two characters do talk about sex and their relationship to it, and like how they feel moving their relationship forward. And I was like, you know what? Having an author be able to do this in a way where I, an almost 30-year-old person, am not uncomfortable reading about these teen characters doing this and feeling like, you know what? I actually would totally give this to a teen and not feel weird about it. Like, I think she really knocked it out of the park in that respect. It didn't feel icky or weird. It just felt normal.
That's very interesting.
That was really nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. I have 4 series, and yeah, I think I know which ones. I had to decide in my head which one wins before I start. The first one was the Knockmount series by Lucy Score. This is the Things We Never Got Over. I had to look up the titles of them. Things We Hide from the Light, and then the last one that came out this year. I think there's gonna be one more. Don't quote me on that. Things We Left Behind. They're the ones that are like chunky romance books. But going into a Lucy Score book, I know what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get Small Town. I'm gonna get romance. I'm gonna get a little bit of true crime in there probably. So they're a lot of fun. So that one. Also the Cricanian series, every year I'm gonna have one. Every year it's gonna be on the list. Ruling, I don't know, Sick Thad? Maybe. By Victoria Aveline. She puts them out and I'll read them. And that's
I'm behind,
all I've been saying.
and I have to catch up on this series this year.
I'm just like, if she puts them out, I will read them. I will read them. And then
if she has 2 fans, it's us. If she has no fans, we're dead.
We're dead. We're gone. Rip us. And then The Edens by Daphne Perry, the Sable Peak one, all those wonderful books. But the one that wins is Unravel Me by Becca Mack, which it's a hockey romance series. Enough already, okay. But it's set in she's Canadian, which I love. I think it's set in Vancouver. I could be wrong. But there's 3 books, and they recently just got like published. They're in Indigo. I mean, you get them anywhere, but I saw them in Indigo, and the covers are really pretty, and I got one for my sister for Christmas. But they're just like wonderful sports romances that aren't like the hockey guys are awful in it. They're well written. There's a lot of tension in them. And no one is particularly stupid, which sometimes I feel like with sports romance you get like the miscommunication, like, I just can't tell you my feelings because I'm a tough guy. And I'm like, but I feel like
break down those barriers.
Yeah, break down those walls, baby. But any of the Becca Mack books, Unravel Me is the newest one, but one is Consider Me. I can't remember the other one, but they're all really good. They're really, really fun. They're really well written. And I cannot recommend them highly enough. I think it's a really fun series.
Okay. Now we come circling back to a category that for me lives adjacent to most impactful read. I don't know about you. But it is a book that is living rent-free inside your head. Book that is living rent-free inside your head. Go.
Okay. So mine is a series that I came across this year. Kindle Unlimited. Check it out if you are so inclined. It's called The Windsors. Again, it's a family where they all have to get married.
Oh.
But in this one, the grandma matchmakes arranged marriages for these people. Oh. And throughout the series, we have like some couples that have known they are going to get married from like being young, some people who go against grandma's wishes and marries somebody else. But why these books live rent-free in my head is because I like read the first one and was like, oh, I really like this book. And then I forgot about it. And then it popped up on Kindle Unlimited and I was like, oh my gosh, there's another one? Fun! And so then I knew the third one was coming out this year. And so I kept waiting for it and I would keep checking. If you're on your Kindle, it'll like, sometimes it'll say continue series and you're like, oh! But then it's like out September and you're like, ah! Why would you do that? So that kept happening with me with the third book. But then it came out. It was like the titles are so goofy. And I don't even think I've said the author's name. But the Windsor series by Catherine Mora. And the books are called The Wrong Bride, The Temporary Wife, and The Unwanted Marriage. Like they're just like Wattpad classic titles that I'm living for, but they're really well written books. Honestly, like some of the better romance books that I've read. And it's freaking Kindle Unlimited, so I really, really, really enjoyed those ones. But yeah, we had very different thought process. I was like, live rent free? The ones that keep like I keep trying to hit on continue series and I'm upset when it's not finished.
When it's
and
not ready.
You have very profound answers, and I'm like, I don't know where to get married.
I mean, these are just the two that I literally can't stop thinking about. I could have only read 2 books this year, and these are the ones I would have read. So we have Minor Detail by Adanya Shibley and The Secret Service of Tea and Treason by India Holton. I'm going to give this one to Minor Detail again because I have not stopped thinking about this book since I read it.
Fair.
Okay.
Fair. Most recommended.
What book did you recommend the most? 2 others. For me, it's The Secret Service of Tea and Treason by India Holton.
Mine is The Anthropocene Reviewed by Chuck Reed. Not shocking or surprising for either of us.
Nope. But I just read your best debut. This is hysterical. So best debut.
Well, you have a genuine answer, so why don't you go first?
So mine is The Daughters of Izdihar by Hadir Elspy. This is a new adult fantasy series about 2 women in a society where women are seen more so as objects than people. And one of them is a magic wielder trying to have a little bit of control in her life, but she had to get married. And then the other woman's point of view is the woman who is the magic wielder's husband's mistress.
That's a lot.
I know. So one is married and the other one is the mistress of the husband.
Whoa. Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. And like whether or not she really wants to be a mistress, and all this kind of stuff, and the feelings in this marriage that is kind of loveless, and they both acknowledge that. It is really, really very good. The ending took me out. It was like an actual jaw drop ending where my jaw was on the floor and I was really mad that I have to wait for the sequel.
Ooh, I do love that. Yeah, I mean, we discovered that I guess Check and Mate is technically a YA debut. But I, for the life of me, could not find one last night. So I just said Me and Elf the Musical, which I thought was so funny. Because I did make my Lethbridge professional main stage debut this year, Elf the Musical, which is not super anything except for fun. I just thought it was funny. Because I genuinely was like, I was gonna put Taylor Swift debut and just put my favorite song, but I was like, I feel like we've run our course on the Taylor Swift jokes. At least let us wade into it a little bit. Standout book format.
I read 79 audiobooks.
Dang.
Yeah. I did the math. I read over 900 hours.
That's so fun though.
Or listened to. Yeah.
That's fun.
And in case you're wondering, that translates to 38 days.
That's like more than a month.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's kind of
I couldn't get enough. I couldn't stop listening.
No, good for you. And no one's stopping you. No one's stopping. I just read ebooks because I read a lot of Kindle Unlimited.
Nice. Did you get your Kindle last year?
2 years ago, but I actually almost exclusively read it from my phone.
Oh,
it just
okay.
I use the Kindle app on my phone. It just is the thing that's with me all the time. So I can read 5 minutes here and there.
That's how I read my ebooks, so.
Yeah. But I also I don't like Libby because you have to, there's something about the Libby function I don't like as much as I like the Kindle function.
Okay.
For reading ebooks. And it might just be, I don't know, because I started on Kindle before I started reading Libby books, but like, I just prefer Kindle formatting for my little eyeballs.
No, that's okay. We have come to our final category.
Yep.
Let's talk best audiobook narration, because we both listen to audiobooks.
We did.
What are yours?
Okay, so I have Chia. My runner-up is Quietly Hostile by Samantha Irby. It is like a comedy thing, a comedy like essay memoir thing. She has a few books out, but this one she wrote it in reflection of the pandemic, and she narrates it herself. I just thought it was fun. Like, I thought her voice was really funny, and the way she wrote I thought was very funny too. So I just enjoyed it. I thought it was like a little comedy, hee hee ha ha ha.
Nice.
Get it through. And then my best audio narration is obviously The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green, narrated by John Green. And you can tell the parts of it that he narrates during the pandemic, or like not in a professional studio, because there's a couple like pickup parts where you're like, brother did this in a closet. I'm sure brother did it in a closet. But I think it's endearing. It doesn't sound that bad, but you could definitely, you're like, hey, why does this sound different all of a sudden for this 30 seconds? But yeah, I think he has such a specific voice, and hearing him speak his own words in his voice is exactly the way that you read it. And I'm like, yeah, this is obviously, yeah. So that's what wins for me.
Nice.
For me.
For you. I have Julia Whalen narrating The Witches of New York by Amy McKay. This was a really great backlist fantasy book that I read. It's very much gives The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue vibes.
Ooh, okay.
But has a much larger cast of characters and is a totally different book. And then we have David Diggs narrating The Deed by River Solomon.
Ooh.
That's my winner. It was so freaking good. He was amazing. It was fantastic.
Okay. Well, there you go. Congratulations to all the award recipients and nominees.
You have our undying love and an open invitation to come on this podcast.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. Very much so. Okay, current reads. Mine's pretty quick.
Okay.
Because mine is just Twisted Ties by Hannah Hayes, which is the second book in the Arrow Hearts Academy series that I just finished. And it was great. It was also great. It's a lot of fun. I literally can't say anything without spoiling. But basically we find out at the end of the first book that what we thought was like 4 men and 1 woman might be 5 men and 1 woman. And there's like a deranged man out to get her, but maybe he loves her. She also, this is so stupid, and this is, I think, her part of the book that I hate a little bit, gives me a bit of the ick, but she has a pet pig. And I just feel like it gives a little pick-me energy. So I don't, that is my reservation, is that she's got a pet pig. Everyone calls her Pig Girl, and I'm like, okay. All
right.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's just a fun little, it took me like a day to read, so I was like, woohoo!
Yeah.
Put it out. Hannah Hayes, she writes a lot of romance series, and some of them are good. I've read a couple of them. Some of them are not good. I recommend this one for sure. I would say I do not condone any of her other series, but this one I think is very strong.
Okay. Mine, I also read it basically in a day. I read it over the course of 2 days, but I think if you put the amount of hours I put into it, it would be less than a day. That kind of thing. And it is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. Have you read it?
No, I have not.
It's up your alley, I feel like.
I feel like it is.
It just got recently republished because it got picked up by Orbit, so it is now out in circulation, which is exciting.
Ooh, okay.
It is about this girl named Cinnamon who runs a cinnamon farm as part of her family's legacy. Okay, and when we meet her, she is drunk off her ass at a festival because in their world, they have a goddess who chooses heroes to fight demons to protect the rest of the humans. And she is so excited to not be chosen. She's like, the girl that got picked, she's like, you go away. We, number one, don't like you. And number two, I don't want to go fight demons. So she is like happy to get absolutely wasted.
Love that for her.
And as she's about to leave the festival, there's like this sound and what looks like something kind of like going on adjacent-ish to her parents' house. And so she like kind of forgets about it, like it happens, and she's kind of like, eh. And then she starts making her way home alone, drunk, and gets accosted on the road by a man who's trying to rob her, but she knows him. And she's like, you are a little punk bitch. Get away from me. And he's like, come on. And she's like, no, you are trying to rob me. So then she deals with him and kind of like takes off and ends up finding this presumably man in a bit of a pickle. Like he's like under a couple branches and stuff, and she's like, oh my god, let me help you. And then he's like, thank you so much, but I have to kill you now. And because he's a demon and that's what demons do. So she goes running and she makes it to her parents' house, bolts the door, and is like, nobody's going anywhere, there's a demon outside. And her family's like, you are crazy. She doesn't sleep like at all. She sleeps in front of the door. And meanwhile, this girl does not want to go be a hero for the goddess, but she's like ready to protect her family, right? Yes. So wakes up the next morning, her family's taking the piss out of her because they're like, you are crazy. Then knock, 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 demon shows up at the door. He's like, hey, I need your help. And she's like, you tried to kill me. And he's like, yeah, but see this thing, and he holds up cinnamon, it counteracts the goddess's spell on me, and now I am normal. She's like, you actually sound insane. And he's like, I know, but listen, your goddess isn't actually a goddess. She is basically an undead witch who has trapped all the demons and put them under like a crazy spell where they're just like killing everything and everyone so that she can rule, but she's actually dead. And I need you to help me take out her like physical manifestations in this world so that we can be free. And but he frames it as she only has to take out one, and then after she does that, he's like, okay, so now we have to go get the other three. And she's like, I don't want to go on a quest with you, crazy. And he's like, I know, but you have to. So then the two of them go on this quest that takes them through swamps, across an ocean, and they fall in love. And it's so much fun. It is so fun and charming and witty and fast-paced, and it does not take itself too seriously, which I love in a romance fantasy. Yeah. But it's like just violent enough. Like at first it kind of like lulls you into a sense of security, and then like someone's arm is getting ripped off very graphically. And you're like, whoa, I was not expecting that. But that's my favorite type of cozy fantasy, is one that comes with like a little violence, you know? It gives me the like taste of dark fantasy that I love, but with this like cozy atmosphere.
So fun.
I think I've officially found like my perfect type of read, and that's it. I want to read more fantasy romances that are like this year. That is my goal. It was so much fun. I don't know when the rest of the books in the series are getting released, but I need them today.
Yeah, because I think there's a few but maybe the republished.
I think there's three, because there's That Time I Got Drunk and yeeted a love potion at a werewolf, and then there's another one that I don't think I know the name of, but it's the Mead and Mishap series, and it is great.
Yeah, that sounds so fun. Sounds very much up my alley.
I think you'd like it. I think you'd like it a lot.
Like I would like it. Okay. That's the shebang, eh?
That's it. We made it to the end of this episode. We are back for season 4. This is so exciting.
This many. 4.
Now I have to remember how
this
to.
a while.
Give me a second. I gotta
It's
work
okay.
myself up to it. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. We are on all podcast platforms and we are on YouTube, so you get to do the things across multiple platforms if you like. We are also on Instagram at Books on the Brain Pod, and would love if you would head on over there to our latest post, and you can leave us the microphone emoji since we're back.
Yeah.
Our podcast.
La, la, la.
And if you feel like sharing, you can tell us one or more of your favorite books from 2023.
Yeah.
We would love to keep that conversation going either in our YouTube comments or over on our Instagram, whatever suits you best. You can also follow us on our own accounts. I'm at Deirdre Rose Morgan on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
And I'm DJ Books on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads.
Ooh, throwing in a new one.
I stopped using Pinterest.
Fair.
I deleted off my phone.
Nice.
Anyway,
we will chat to you in the next one. Bye.
bye.